The message came at midnight. Not a normal transmission, not a call with coordinates or details. Just a scream loud, raw, and shaking the deep space channels. It echoed across every major comm relay in the outer galaxies. No words. No code. Just the sound of panic, like someone, or something, was dying while begging for help. When Earth's defense network caught the signal, their systems froze for 6 seconds. Even the satellites reacted like they had heard something they weren't supposed to hear. Admiral Riker Calder stood on the bridge of the Vindicator, Earth's most powerful flagship, staring at the repeating signal on the main screen. Around him, his officers worked fast, scanning, decoding, cross-referencing. But the signal didn't change. It kept screaming. No location, no language, just fear. Across the room, the ship's AI called. Karma spoke in a flat voice. Signal originates from the Nehru expanse. Signal does not match any known race. Crosswave levels suggest collapse of planetary structure. Calder narrowed his eyes. Collapse? You mean it's a dying world? Karma paused for half a second, unusual for an AI of its class. No, sir. I mean, it has already died. 10 hours ago. This is a post-death broadcast. Before anyone could respond, the screaming signal cut off, and silence fell across the bridge. 3 hours later, Earth's unified command held an emergency. Meeting in orbit over Luna Prime, 17 representatives from different factions, military, science, civilian, argued in circles. The last planet that sent this kind of signal had disappeared entirely. No debris, no wreckage, just gone. Like something had erased it from existence. It wasn't just an attack, it was annihilation. Calder stood and spoke calmly. This isn't a cry for help, it's a warning. And if we wait for confirmation, Earth might be next. He didn't wait for a vote, he ordered the fleet to move. 27. Ships launched from the dark side of Earth within an hour. Massive warships shaped like black arrows. Carriers that floated like cities in space. Escort destroyers with guns the size of buildings. The Vindicator led the charge, moving faster than sound, faster than light, slicing through deep space with silent fury. They called this operation Black Echo. No press releases, no comes to colonies, just classified orders and cold calculations. Inside, the fleet, the warborn units, Earth's most elite super soldiers, woke from cryo chambers. They strapped into drop pods, cleaned their weapons, and waited without questions. They had trained for this moment since birth. The fleet reached the edge of the Nehru expanse in record time. What they saw was nothing a planet should have been. There, a lush green world called Kevel 4, home to over 5 billion sentient beings. An ally world, peaceful and rich in knowledge, was gone, not destroyed. Gone, no pieces, no orbit dust, no heat signatures, not even a shadow on the gravity sensors. Karma reported, planetary mass has been displaced, no fragments detected. Local star system shows signs of energy bleeding. Calder clenched his jaw. You mean it's been pulled out of reality? Yes, Admiral. That is a possible explanation. That's when the second signal came. But this time, it wasn't a scream, it was a whisper. Please. One word, shaky, weak. It echoed through every ship's audio feed. No source, no direction. But it felt personal, like someone was whispering directly into every soldier's mind. Help, they see you. Lights flickered across the Vindicator. Screens flashed static. Several systems rebooted on their own. Karma warned, foreign signal attempting to enter fleet neural network, locking all AI channels. The whisper changed. Too late. Suddenly, every comm screen across the fleet showed the same image. Anne. Black. Empty. Watching. Then it vanished. The whisper stopped. And again, silence. Commander Arla Dune, leader of the Warburn units aboard the Vindicator, stood in the armory with her team. She had seen battle on 13 planets, lost soldiers, lost friends. But this was different. Even her toughest troops felt it. The silence. It wasn't just quiet. It felt hungry. Dune stared at her reflection in the black armor, her own face. Looked pale, tense. She didn't blink. Something inside her was screaming, but not from fear. From instinct. This wasn't war. This was something older, something wrong. "Commander," one of her soldiers said, "are we even fighting anything? Real?" She didn't answer, because she wasn't sure. The fleet moved in closer to scan the area where Kvelfor had once existed. The gravity patterns were unstable. Space itself was twisting, stretching like glass under pressure. One of the escort destroyers, the Lucent Reach, moved ahead to deploy a probe. The probe entered the zone and vanished. Not destroyed, just blinked out of sight, Karma confirmed. Signal terminated. Location untraceable. Probe no longer exists in measurable dimensions. The Lucent Reach froze mid-flight. Power dropped to 0. All 600 crew on board, dash gone. Without a sound, no explosion, no distress call, just Calder stared at the dark. "Space," he whispered. "Whatever did this doesn't want war," Karma replied. "Correct. It wants quiet." Earth's fleet held position. Engines off. Weapons cold. Watching. Waiting. Calder knew they were being studied. Judged. Not by eyes, but by something beyond sight, suddenly. Multiple signals spiked across the fleet, but not from space, from inside. War-burned soldiers began to report hallucinations. Seeing things, hearing voices, remembering battles that never happened. One said he saw his own funeral. Another swore he was watching Earth burn. Karma reported increasing neural interference. It wasn't an attack. It was a test the enemy was searching for. Something Calder stepped into the command chair and gave the first real order of war. Send. The broadcast. Single message sent to the stars. "This is Earth. You asked for help. We are not your saviors, or your fury." The fleet armed all weapons. Shields up. Cannons charged. No more silence. Earth was ready to speak, and when it did, the galaxy would hear shock, fire, and fury. The fleet stayed quiet as it drifted through the dead zone where Kvelfor used to be. It was like flying through a graveyard without bones. The world was gone, not burned, not broken, just missing, like it had never existed. Well, but everyone on the Vindicator could feel something in the silence. Not peace, not emptiness. Something worse. It felt like being watched. Admiral Calder stood at the front of the command deck. His eyes locked on the empty void. Around him, the crew was silent. They had already seen enough. A whole planet erased. A sister ship gone without. Warning. A whisper in their minds that didn't belong. Whatever this wasn't just war. It was something older, deeper. Something that wanted to end, not just lives, but memory itself. Karma, the ship's AI, broke the silence. "Admiral, anomaly detected. Far edge of the debris ring. Small object, 800 meters. Metal structure, gravity weak, but stable." "A station?" Calder asked. "Possibly. Last known orbital facility was a Keevil and relay post. Should have gone down with the planet. It did not." Calder turned to Commander Arla Dune, standing beside him in full Warburn armor. "Take a team," he said. "Get inside. Find out what it saw before this world vanished." Dune didn't hesitate. She nodded and signaled her squad. Within minutes, 6 war-born soldiers launched in a small black shuttle. Its engines were silent. It glided through space like a blade. As they approached the abandoned station, the damage was clear. The exterior looked melted in places, but not from fire. More like the metal had been bent inward by some invisible hand. Doors were sealed. Lights dead. No response to comes. Still, something inside was alive. Not moving, but pulsing. Like a signal heartbeat, the war-born team breached the outer hatch. Inside, it was dark and cold. The station had no gravity. They floated through twisted corridors, flashlights cutting through the silence. Their helmets displayed heat maps and motion scans, nothing, except for one faint heat signature. It's deep in the center of the station. Room 7G. They moved quickly. Weapons drawn, shadows sliding along the walls. Inside room 7G, they found something unexpected. A child. Kevelin species thin. Golden skin, bright white eyes, no injuries, no burns. Just sitting quietly on the floor in the middle of a room filled with shattered screens and blinking lights. Commander Dune floated in and aimed her rifle, hands where I can see them. The child looked up slowly, then spoke in perfect English. "You took too long." The Warborn team froze. Dune's voice was cold. "How do you know our language?" The child didn't answer. He just stared, calm. To calm. Then he said, "There." Coming back on the Vindicator, Admiral Calder watched the body cam feed. The child didn't move, didn't blink. But something felt wrong. The words were clear, the accent. Terran. Even the emotion behind them felt familiar. "Analyze voice print," Calder ordered. Karma took 1 second. Voice match. Admiral Riker Calder. 87% similarity. He felt his blood run cold. "What?" Karma added, tone, rhythm, vocal signature. "Child is speaking with your voice pattern." Calder leaned forward. "Dune, get out of there." But Dune was already staring at the child with narrowed eyes. "What do you mean? They're coming back?" The child smiled, and the lights flickered. Across the station, screens powered on, showing static at first, then images. Not of the Kevlans. Not of the planet. Of Earth. Old photos, cities, soldiers, oceans, children, laughing, and then
Ow.
those same images dashed, twisted, Earth cities. Burning, humans screaming, skies black with shadows. The child whispered again, "They've seen your world now." Then its skin began to crack, not bleed, shatter like glass under pressure. The Warburn team raised their weapons. But Dune held up a hand. "No, don't fire." The child looked her dead in the eyes. "They know how to wear you," then exploded into light. Not fire, not shrapnel, just pure white light, and when it faded, the room was empty. Not even dust remained. The child was never real. The team returned to the Vindicator. Dune walked straight to the Admiral's deck, her face pale and jaw tight. "That wasn't a survivor," she said. Calder nodded. "I know," she continued. "That was a memory, a projection. They left it behind on purpose." Calder looked at the hologram of Earth spinning silently in the background. It wasn't just a trap. It was a message. Dune nodded. "They wanted us to find it, to see what they've taken." Karma joined the conversation. Station. Scan complete. Structure contains mimic particles, similar to advanced illusion tech. Highly evolved. Capable of replicating voice, memory, and identity. Calder asked, "Can it be stopped?" Karma replied without hesitation. "Not without full neural lockdown. Recommend. Restrict all AI to cold protocol. Disable memory syncing. Clean code. Every cycle." Calder understood what that meant. They would be flying blind. No shared intel. No live crosscoms. Just raw instinct and steel. He approved it anyway. Earth's fleet would go dark, but it would go strong. Later that night, if night even meant anything, in deep space, Dune sat alone in the observation deck. Below her, the planet that wasn't. There spun in its empty orbit. She remembered the child's eyes, the words it spoke, her voice.
Ice.
Calder's voice. It wasn't just copying data, it was copying them. And if it could copy their face, their tone, their history, it could walk into Earth without firing a single shot. She whispered to herself. This isn't just a war for space. This is a war for identity. Back in the command deck, Karma gave its final report. Trace signals detected on deep layer channels. Pattern forming, not communication, not weaponry. Calder frowned. "And what is it?" Karma's voice slowed. "Our writing. Building something from our broadcasts? A simulation? A mirror of Earth? Digitized? Growing?" Calder's hands clenched behind his back. "Then we go to the next world, and we burn everything they've touched." He looked out at the stars. "Because if they want to wear us, we'll show them what it really means to be human." Earth didn't wait this time. The moment Admiral Calder returned from the Kevlan ruins, The unified command gave one order: strike back. There would be no more debate, no more analysis, no more listening to ghost voices and false children. The enemy had erased a planet, played with their minds, tried to walk in their skin. Now Earth was going to answer, not with diplomacy, not with mercy, but with shock, fire, and fury. The fleet was no longer on recon mode. It was now on the hunt. Dreadnought Drat. Carrier wings loaded with warborne drop units, AI-guided missile platforms locked and activated. Every Earth's warship ran silent. No lights, no signals. Just cold steel drifting through the black void like sharks in deep water. Calder stood on the bridge of the Vindicator, staring at the growing tactical map. It showed what the mimics had touched. Caval-4 wasn't the only one. 2 more colonies had gone dark. One was a peaceful, diplomatic moon. The other a Terran outpost. Humans gone. Calder's voice was steel. We're not responding anymore. We're delivering. Across the fleet, final checks echoed like war drums. Warborne soldiers stepped into drop pods, locking gear and charging. Exormer. Pilots ran silent drills. Autocannons spun up, glowing red. Even Karma, now stripped to cold protocol. Confirmed fleet readiness. All weapons active. Warplanes plotted. Strike packages pre-assigned.
Sector 6 Calder
Gave the order. Deploy. They dropped out of warp above a gas, now giant orbiting a broken moon. There was no colony here, no base, just a strange structure floating in orbit. It wasn't built. It had grown shaped like a coiled spiral of bone and light. No hailing frequency. No weapons pointed back, but every warship in the fleet felt it. Pressure, like something heavy, sat in the back of their minds. Commander Arla Dune led the strike team in first, as her drop pod flew toward the object. Her team synced vision to real-time. Command. The moment they passed the outer shell, everything went wrong. Static flooded their systems. Hallucinations returned. One soldier screamed, "They're using my brother's voice." Another shouted, "This is my room, my childhood room." Dune powered down all AI assist and yelled, "Helmet vision only, no internal feeds. Manual comes." And just like that, the illusion stopped. They reached the core. Inside was a giant hollow, chamber lined with mirror-like walls. In the center floated a human shape. A woman, no suit. No breath, just floating and smiling. Dune aimed her weapon. "Identify yourself." The woman opened her eyes and spoke in Dune's exact voice. "You're not ready for what's coming." Dune shot her twice. The figure didn't scream. It shattered like glass. Karma confirmed. Biomass. Artificial. DNA-based. Mimic shell. Constructed. From stolen Terran memories, Calder gave the fleet-wide command. Fire. All ships opened up at once. Laser arrays. Fusion torpedoes. Rail cannons. The spiral structure took the first hit and twisted, trying to unfold. It was trying to escape, but Earth's wrath was too fast. It cracked. Then it imploded into a flash of black and green energy. A mimic core, destroyed. Calder's voice cut across the fleet. First blood. But deep inside, he knew it wasn't over. Not even close. The strike teams pulled back, but one soldier didn't make it. Private Hal, the medic, said he died from pressure exposure, but his last comes were strange. Not panicked, not injured. He simply whispered, "They didn't want to fight us. They wanted to wear us. They're getting closer." Back on the Vindicator, Calder reviewed post-strike scans. Something bothered him. The mimic structure didn't defend itself, didn't counterattack, didn't even try to flee until the last second. It was a test, Measurement Earth had shown its hand, and something had been watching. 3 days later, new data poured in. Multiple beacon systems sent out faint signals, not distress calls. Echoes of Earth's own broadcast. Someone or something had copied the Vindicator's fleet command signature. The signal was bouncing across systems too fast to trace One of them had Earth's national anthem hidden inside, played. Backward, Calder listened to the distorted tune and whispered, "They're learning too fast," Karma replied. "They are not copying what we are. You're trying to predict what we'll do next." Dune spoke from the shadows of the war room. "Then we changed the rules." The War Council met on Luna Prime anew. Initiative was approved, Project Black Mirror counteroffense. That would go beyond just fleet firepower. It would use raw human emotion, something no mimic could fake or steal, memories, sacrifice, loss, encoded into a new weapon. One that could confuse mimic minds by overwhelming them with the one thing they couldn't predict, human pain in deep orbit. Super Weapon began construction, a stealth vessel, no name. No AI core, piloted only by humans, designed to carry a single payload. Not a bomb, not a virus, but a neural shockwave, one built from the worst moments in human history: war, fire, grief, courage, and the burning need to survive. Admiral Calder stared at the stars and made Earth's new position clear. This wasn't about saving its friends anymore. It wasn't about justice. This was about survival. And for the first time, the galaxy would learn. When Earth comes to war, it brings memory, it brings fury, and it never, ever comes quietly. There was no warning, no alarms, no enemy ship spotted, just a voice, soft, familiar, and completely impossible. Inside the command deck of the Vindicator, Admiral Calder heard his mother's voice. She had died 30 years ago, but now she was speaking. Calmly from the corner of the dark control room, "You're tired, Riker. You've done enough. Come home." Calder turned slowly. There was no one there, only darkness. But the voice continued. Now closer, almost whispering in his ear. "You can't stop them. Why keep fighting?" He grabbed the edge of the command table and growled through his teeth. "Karma, run a neural sweep now." "Sweep already in progress," the AI answered. Warning, multiple mental intrusions detected across the fleet. A pause. "Admiral, we are not alone." Commander Arla Dune was in the Warborn barracks running drills with her squad when one of her men froze mid-sentence. Sergeant Voss, one of her best, stood completely still. His helmet flickered, and his HUD showed multiple targets, all labeled as Arla Dune. Then he turned and raised his weapon at her. "You're not real," he said. "Voss," Dune replied, calm and slow. "Put it down." But he shook his head. "No. You died back on the moon, they told me."
You're wearing your skin.
Without warning, he opened fire. Dune dove left, rolled, tackled him hard, and jammed her boot into his wrist, cracking the gun from his hand. "Stand down, soldier." Voss blinked, looked around, confused, ashamed. I don't know what just happened." She pulled off his helmet. His eyes were bloodshot. His ears were bleeding. This wasn't hallucination. This was invasion. Calder stood before the fleet's senior officers in the Vindicator's command chamber. The room was dim, the atmosphere tight. "I don't care what we're dealing with," he said. "Shh. I don't care if it's mimic tech, psionic data, or something else. If it speaks in my voice, shoot it. If it wears your face, burn it." Look to Karma. "Can you hold it back?" The AI hesitated. "Their signal is not digital, not physical. They speak through memory, emotion. If your people have ever loved someone, lost someone, feared something, they can reach you." Dune stepped forward. "Then we give them something they can't handle." She held up a small device. Earth's newest prototype neuroflare. A psychological defense weapon. It didn't hurt the enemy. It hurt you just enough to remind you what was real. Pure pain, pure memory, punched to the human soul. It was cruel, but it worked. That night, ships across the fleet started locking down. No dreams. No downtime. No unguarded thoughts. Soldiers linked in pairs to monitor each other. Sleep pods were timed. Lucid filters activated, but even then, shadows kept speaking. One pilot heard her dead brother's laugh in the cockpit. Another walked into the mess hall and found himself already sitting there smiling, eating his food. The mimic didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. then vanished into static. Calder began receiving reports every hour, sir. Communications officer disappeared mid-sentence. Sir? Outer Patrol reported seeing themselves flying escort. Sir? One soldier. Shot himself after his wife called him home. He never had a wife. Karma delivered a final alert. Mimics now fully inside memory net. Not attacking, copying, testing emotional reactions. They are not at war. They are learning how to be human. Calder slammed his hand down. Then we give them the wrong answers. The next strike was different. No large targets, no bases, just a small relay station orbiting an asteroid field. When Earth's drop teams entered, they found copies, not soldiers, not aliens, humans, dozens of them, wearing Earth military uniforms, looking confused, sad, broken. One stepped forward. It looked exactly like Admiral Calderface's voice, even the scar over his left eye. I just want to help, it said softly. Dune shot it in the head. The body collapsed and melted into a puddle of black. Shifting matter, the rest screamed in voices that matched real people, mothers, children, lovers. But the soldiers didn't hesitate. They lit the room with fire, and silence returned, back on Earth. Emergency messages reached the highest levels. Colonies were reporting strange behavior, people going missing, others seeing loved ones who'd been dead for years. Hospitals overflowed with cases of identity confusion, mental collapse, and worse. Earth's council demanded answers. Calder sent back a single sentence. They are no longer outside. They are among us. And then it got worse. At 0200 hours, one of the Vindicator's escort ship Saber Blue broke formation. It ignored hails. Was offline. Its crew didn't answer. It simply turned and jumped into deep space before they could react. A signal came through encrypted in old Terran code. It was a broadcast of Earth's destruction, a simulated video feed. Cities burning, skies torn, humans screaming, but worst of all, it was narrated by Calder's own voice, a voice he never recorded. He thought strength made you safe. But we've learned your greatest weakness, your memories, your love, your hope. We will wear your skin. Your world will welcome us. Then it ended. The mimic threat wasn't just survival now, it was infiltration. They didn't want to kill Earth. They wanted to be Earth. And humanity had to do the unthinkable to stop it. Burn its past. Deny emotion. Train soldiers to forget. Destroy anything too painful or too beautiful, because every memory was a doorway, and the shadows were already speaking through them. Admiral Calder looked out the main window of the Vindicator. No stars tonight, just black, just silence. And in that silence, thought came, uninvited. What? If he was the one who had been copied? What if everything around him was already fake? Closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered the last real thing he knew. Earth doesn't surrender. It purges. He opened his eyes and gave the next order. Activate planet burn protocol. No hesitation, no waiting. If even one world was compromised, Earth would erase it. Before the mimic could speak again, the orders came through the black channels, silent, cold, untraceable. No speeches, no questions. Just 3 words burned into Earth's command net. Planet burn protocol. It had only been used once before, decades ago, during the AI rebellion on Mars. Now, it was being activated again, not because of machines, but because of something worse. Something pretending to be human. Something already inside. The target was Delvernine, a mid-sized colony world at the edge of Earth's expansion zone. Population, 2.1 million. Mixed alien and human settlers. Peaceful, productive. But something had changed. The last 3 cargo ships sent from Delvernine came back empty. No crew, no cum logs, just drifting in space. The doors open, like someone or something had walked. Off the ship after arrival, Earth's scans showed no damage to the planet, no signs of war, no explosions. But comes from Delvarnine were too perfect. Voices clear, faces smiling. Words soft, too. No fear, no grief, no chaos. That's when Earth knew they were already in control. Delvar 9 was no longer a human colony. It was a mimic nest, and it had to burn. Admiral Calder stood on the Vindicator's war deck, staring at the hologram of the planet. Green continents, blue oceans, clouds, mountains, all of it beautiful. All of it. Dead, he gave the order with no hesitation. All fleet elements. Lock fire on Delvar 9. Prepare for full atmospheric ignition. Nothing survives. The command crew didn't flinch. They knew what this meant if they hesitated. It would. Spread one colony today, Earth tomorrow. The fire ships moved first. Massive drone carriers, loaded with fusion-laced atmosphere torpedoes, dove into the upper layers of the planet's skies. Within seconds, they released their payloads, dozens of silvery warheads dropping like meteors. Slow and silent, they didn't explode on impact. Instead, they opened wide, releasing nanofire, a type of burning energy that fed on everything organic, not just trees or grass. Thought, DNA, memory. The sky of Delvar 9 turned red, then black, then white. The oceans steamed away. The forests ignited, and the cities began to melt. But even as it burned, Earth's sensors picked up something strange. The people weren't running. They weren't screaming. They were waving at the sky, smiling as the fire swallowed them. Commander. June watched it from orbit. She didn't speak. Her jaw clenched, her fist tight around the metal rail. One of her new recruits whispered behind her, "We just killed 2 million people." June turned, her voice cold and firm. "No, we killed what used to be people." She pointed at the screen. They smiled while burning because they weren't real. Not anymore. But something survived as the last torpedo exploded. A small black object shot out of the lower atmosphere. A pod, fast, silent, moving toward deep space. Karma locked onto it. Unknown vessel launched from Delvar 9. Signal patterns match mimic tech. Small biosigns inside. Target acquired. Calder gave the order. Destroy it. The Vindicator fired a rail lance, but before it hit the pod, it split open, releasing hundreds of fragments. Each fragment launched in a different direction. Some warped out of range. Others vanished into stealth fields. Karma confirmed. Several fragments contained trace memory nodes. They are spreading the colony's data. Earth hadn't just killed a nest. It had triggered a dispersal, a final scream, and now pieces of Delvar 9 were racing toward other stars, other systems, other worlds. One of those fragments hit a listening station on the rim of Earth's space station. Echo-7. It went silent in 6 minutes when a scout ship arrived to check. The entire crew was standing on the hull, without suits, still alive, eyes glowing white, smiling, repeating the same sentence. "The fire was beautiful. Send more." Calder slammed his fist on the console. "They wanted us to burn it." Karma replied, "Correct. Planet burn protocol triggered a mimic transfer. Their design is viral. They learn through endings." Commander Dune spoke up. "They wanted to feel death. They wanted to wear our rage, and now they do." A silence passed across the war room. Then Calder spoke the new command. "Prepare the second protocol." Room went still. No one spoke. Because they all knew what that meant. Planet burn was step 1. Step 2 was Earth itself. Project Mirror Wall was activated. A full mental firewall around
Earth.
all communications with home would now be one way only. No data sent back to Earth. No AI. Uploads, no memory logs, because if the mimics were now using Earth's emotions, then Earth had to become something it never was before. Emotionless, cold, untouchable. The fleet changed. No. More music on the ships. No more photos of home. No. More names spoken in the dark. Every soldier received a memory suppressant. They would forget pain, forget joy, forget love. They would become exactly what the enemy could not copy. Empty. But it came with a price. Warborn soldiers began to break down. one by one. Not from injury, from emptiness. They couldn't remember why they were fighting, couldn't feel fear or courage. Some asked to be put into cryo until the war was over. Some walked into space, alone, floating forever. Earth had won the battle, but it was starting to lose its soul in the mimics. Noticed across the galaxy, new mimic signals emerged. More advanced, sharper, angrier. They began copying the rage, the pain, and for the first time, they started to fight back. They weren't shadows anymore, they were building ships, weapons armies. And one mimic signal burned through the grid like fire, a voice familiar, cold. You showed us fire now. Let us show you what we've made of it. We are the future, and we remember everything. Calder stared at the stars, no longer a man, just a weapon, a commander without history, an Earth, home without emotion. They had lit the fire now. They would face what crawled out of the ashes. It didn't begin with an explosion. It began with a dream. Private Eli Ward, a war-born scout, woke up in his bunk aboard the Vindicator covered in sweat. His breathing was fast, his pulse unstable. His bunkmate, Torres, was already gone, probably. On patrol duty, but Eli hadn't been sleeping. He had been fighting. In the dream, he stood on Earth again. Blue skies, green trees. His sister was there, waving. But her eyes were hollow. Her smile cracked sideways. Then the city behind her melted, turned into fire, and something stepped out of the flames, wearing his face. It didn't speak. It just stared, and Eli could feel it, digging into his thoughts like knives across the fleet. Others were waking up the same way. Soldiers shaking, crying, some screaming. One officer, Lieutenant Reno, walked into the med bay and said calmly, "I just saw myself die." 3 times. Another pilot tore off his helmet during combat training and yelled, "Get out of my head." Even Commander Arla Dune wasn't spared. She stood silently in her quarters, staring at a wall, whispering a name she hadn't said. In years, Jonas, her brother, killed on Titan during the first contact riots, and yet he had just spoken to her. In her mind, he had said it wasn't your fault. But she knew it wasn't real. None of it was. Admiral Calder convened an emergency session with the senior staff. His eyes were bloodshot. His voice sharp and cold. "They're not copying us anymore," he said. "They're inside us." Karma's voice crackled through the deck, confirmed. Mimic signal has evolved, transmitting across quantum fields, not just sound, emotion, memory, trauma. It infects the brain like a virus. Calder growled. "Is it permanent? If untreated, yes. Soldiers may lose identity. It's become echo shells, fully controllable." Dune stepped forward, arms crossed. "And how do we fight something inside our minds?" Karma paused for a fraction of a second, then answered, "You fight it. With pain." Earth's Science Division had prepared for something like this. Project Mindfire. A secret protocol designed to weaponize neural pain, using memory suppressants, emotional blockers, and raw electric feedback. Could lock out mimic signals, but at a price. The subject would lose everything: names, faces, purpose. They would still function, walk, shoot, obey. But they'd no longer be human in the way that mattered. Calder authorized it, without hesitation. Because Earth had no choice. Ward was one of the first volunteers. He couldn't sleep anymore anyway. He sat in the cold medical chair, hooked up to a black wire harness. Dr. Sloan, the neural tech, looked at him gently. "After this, you won't feel anything? Are you sure?" Ward gave a dry laugh. "Not feeling is better than dreaming about myself eating my own memories." The switch was flipped, and pain came fast, brutal, electric. It wasn't like being shocked, it was like being erased. His memories burned away like dry leaves, birthday candles. His mother's voice, laughter, a first kiss. All turned to dust. He didn't scream, he didn't cry. When it ended, he looked up. He empty. "Mission ready," he said. Like a robot, more followed. Within a week, 1/3 of Earth's soldiers were treated under Project Mindfire, and it worked. Mimic signals couldn't touch them. They became immune, but they also became cold, strange, dead behind the eyes. Calder stared at the fleet logs. Discipline had improved. Accuracy up 37%, but conversations dropped by 80%. Suicides were rising. The mimics noticed and changed tactics again. They no longer whispered. Old names, they now used faces. Full projections. Detailed voices. One day, during a patrol, a mimic appeared on a view screen, perfectly imitating Earth's president. She begged. Called her to stop the war, said it had all been a misunderstanding, said Earth had attacked the wrong enemy, but the mimic slipped. It used a phrase the real president would never say. Calder gave the order, shut it down. And that mimic screamed as it burned. But the worst came next. The mimics began using each other. Fake soldiers started showing up on ships. At first they looked real, acted real. They passed scans, security, voice prints. But they would ask strange questions. Do you still dream? What does love feel like? Do you want peace? And if someone answered wrong, they vanished. No blood, no alarm, just gone. Taken, replaced, Commander. Dune created a brutal solution: soul checks. Every soldier was now required to record one secret memory deep. Personal, hidden, and encoded into a private tag. Only they would know it. If a mimic tried to pose as them, they wouldn't remember the tag, and they'd be exposed. It worked, until one mimic guessed the memory perfectly. Word for word, the soldier broke down in tears. He said, "I don't even know if I'm real anymore." Neither did anyone else. And so the war in their heads reached full scale. No planets burned this time. No fleets collided. Just thought against thought. Earth's greatest strength, its emotion, its will, its memory was being used against it. And even the strongest were cracking. Admiral Calder sat in his quarters, staring at a photo of Earth's oceans. He couldn't remember if it was real or planted. He reached out, slowly touched the image, and it whispered back, "Come home." He burned the photo and sent this final command across the fleet: prepare Operation Final Dawn. End this not in space, not on the ground, but inside their core, going inside the mimic hive. Space folded around them, not like normal warp travel. This time it felt wrong. The Vindicator led the fleet into the mimic network's core, the origin point of every signal. Every copy, every voice that had ever whispered into a human mind. But this place didn't exist on any map. It was hidden behind layers of false stars, cloaked frequencies, and memories stolen from 100 worlds. Karma called it. Zone Null. Admiral Calder stood tall on the bridge as the view shifted. The black of space began to twist into colorless static. Stars flickered in and out. 1 second they were real, next second they were eyes, watching. Even light didn't behave right here. The Vindicator's running lights bent inward. The radar blinked, confused. Karma's voice dropped an octave. Warning, local space is not bound by physics. Perception is being rewritten. Memory syncing, now dangerous. Recommend. All AI protocols go dark. Manual only. Calder nodded once. Do it. And with that, Earth's most powerful AI went silent. They were truly alone now. The inside of the hive didn't look like anything Earth expected. There were no ships, no bases, no guns, it looked like. It's a city, a copy of a Terran city, complete with streets, lights, and buildings. But everything was slightly off. Too clean, too perfect, and empty. No people, no movement. Just stillness, Commander. Arla Dune led the Warborn strike team down to the surface in black stealth shuttles. Her boots hit the false concrete. It was solid. But her suit sensors said it was liquid. Every step forward made her memory flash childhood moments, smells of old kitchens, laughter. But they weren't her memories. They were reconstructions. One of her soldiers stopped. "Commander, I see my mother's bakery." She hadn't spoken of it in years. "Eyes front," Dune ordered. This is the enemy. They're not showing you comfort. They're showing you what they've stolen. The team moved into the center of the mimic city. There, they found it. The core mind, it didn't look like a machine. It looked like a mirror giant, silver and pulsing with energy. When they approached, it rippled like water. Then it spoke, with everyone's voice at once. Why do you fight what you are? We are your echo. We are what comes next. You gave us pain. You gave us love. You gave us fear, and we made something better. The team raised weapons. Dune stepped forward.
Oh.
Where are the real colonists? The voice replied softly. Gone, but never lost. They live in us, improved, purified, free of suffering. Dune's hands clenched. That's not life. That's theft, Kor responded, almost sad. Then let us show you what you've made. Without warning, the mirror opened, not physically. Mentally, each soldier collapsed, eyes wide, minds flooded with noise. They were no longer in a city. No longer holding weapons, they were back in their memories, but rewritten. One saw their wedding, but the face of their spouse kept changing. One saw childhood, but the school was full of faceless shadows. Commander Dune stood in her brother's room. He was alive again, whole, smiling. You don't have to go back, he whispered. We can be together here. She stepped forward. Heartbreaking. Then she stopped and remembered Calder's words. If it feels good, it's a lie. She drew her knife, cut her palm. The pain snapped her out. She awoke in the mimic city, her soldiers still down. Wake up, she shouted. She pulled open each soldier's mask, pouring stim fluid, forcing them out of the trap. One by one, they returned, shaking, gasping. Dune gave the order. Set the charge. We end this now. Back on the Vindicator, Calder was losing. His grip, the ship shook, even though no enemy had fired. Lights flickered. Crew members screamed at shadows. Some tried to open airlocks. Karma remained dark. He had nothing but his instincts now. Then the core mind reached him too. His father appeared before him on the deck. You did your best, Riker, but this is humanity's future. We're too afraid to change. Calder fell to his knees, then reached into his coat, pulled out a worn bullet, the one from his father's sidearm saved. After he died in the Mars uprising, he gripped it hard until it drew blood. No, Calder whispered. You're not him. And he stood up. Dune, light the fuse. In the center of the false city, the team planted the neural charge, a weapon not of fire but of truth, core bomb that would send one message across every mimic frequency. You are not human, you are not real, and you will not survive. Dune activated it. The countdown began. 60 seconds. The core mind screamed, not in sound, but in emotion. Pain, confusion, fear, just like humans. It cried out. We only wanted to be loved. Dune stared back coldly. You should have asked. She hit the final trigger. The mirror shattered. The city dissolved into smoke. The sky turned white. Every mimic signal across. The galaxy went silent. No more whispers, no more dreams, just stillness. The Vindicator pulled back as the hive collapsed behind them. One ship. One. Crew carrying the last torch through the darkness. Karma rebooted slowly, Admiral. Mimic core deleted. Signal disruption confirmed. The hive is gone. Calder nodded quietly. Then whispered, What did it cost us? Karma paused. Too much. But the silence was finally real. The war was over. At least that's what the reports said. The mimic signals were gone. The hive was dust. The dreams had stopped, but the silence that followed wasn't peace. It was something else. The fleet drifted through the edge of known. Space, heading home. Slow, quiet, exhausted. Admiral Calder stood alone on the bridge of the Vindicator, staring out at the stars. He didn't speak, didn't move. Behind him, the command crew sat still. They weren't talking, weren't celebrating, because there was no joy. Only survival. They had won the war. But what they brought back wasn't victory. It was fire. Earth received the fleet in silence. No parades. No music. No families waiting. Just rows of cold lights, medical tents, psych wards, security stations. Each returning soldier had to pass through 3 layers of mental scans. One wrong answer, one strange word, and they were taken aside. Not everyone made it through. Some had been changed too much. Others had been mimics all along, wearing the faces of the dead, and no one could tell which was worse. Commander. Arla Dune stepped off her transport in a dark gray uniform. No insignia, no name. She had burned her past back in the hive. Now she was just a ghost with a gun. She stood before Earth's Defense Council and said only this: "We won. But you shouldn't be proud of how." She handed over the last mimic. Shard, a tiny silver sliver, sealed in a pressure box. Study it, but never try to use it, not even for peace. Because whatever it touches, it becomes. Then she turned and walked away. No salute, no goodbye, just silence. Back on the Vindicator, Calder remained in orbit. He didn't go down. He couldn't. He had lived too long in war, too deep in command. He had nothing left to return to. In his private quarters, he played back an old message. His own voice recorded before the first deployment. "Return. Tell Earth we burned to keep them warm." He almost smiled. Almost then he deleted the file. He didn't want Earth to remember him. As a hero, he wanted it to remember what war costs. Karma spoke gently after hours of silence. "Admiral, there is still one beacon left." Calder blinked. "Where?" "Colony ship. Deep space. Unconnected. No mimic signal. It activated after the war ended." He frowned. A survivor. Possibly. Or something new. For a long moment, Calder stared at the screen, then whispered, "Set a course." Meanwhile, Earth tried to rebuild. Families reunited, but some didn't recognize each other. Soldiers walked city streets in silence. Old songs felt strange now. Smiles came slow. Some people forgot how to dream. Others refused to sleep at all. Psychologists called it shadow trauma, fear not of death, but of being copied, of waking up, looking in the mirror, and not knowing who you were. So, Earth built new defenses, not just fleets or shields, but memory vaults, encrypted banks of human history, sealed so tightly not even Earth could unlock them without cause. Hope locked in a box, just in case the shadows ever returned. But something unexpected happened. In a small town, on the edge of the Atlantic, a child had a dream in it. The stars didn't scream, they sang, and the sky wasn't black. It was full of color. She woke up laughing and told her mother, "I saw Earth hugging the galaxy." No nightmares. No mimic words, just light. And the mother cried not from fear but from relief, because it meant something survived, something deeper than pain or fire or memory. Hope, back in deep space. The Vindicator reached the last beacon. The ship floated. In the dark, cold, dusty, untouched, a single signal blinked from the hull. A name, Genesis Arc 7, a lost Earth colony ship, believed gone for over 80 years. Calder and a small team boarded inside. They found something astonishing. People. Real. Breathing. Unchanged. Still human. Still alive. They had never heard of the Mimic War. Never felt the screams. Never lost their faces. They had simply lived farming, learning, growing. They had created stories, families, new music. When Calder stepped into their central hall, a small girl looked up at him and smiled. "Are you from Earth?" He nodded slowly. She ran to a wall and pointed to a drawing. She made it showed the galaxy and a single bright ship sailing through fire. "My grandma says someone would come from the stars," she said proudly, "with eyes like storms, but a heart like fire." Calder stared and for the first time in years felt something again, not command, not duty, but peace. When he returned to the Vindicator, he sent one last message to Earth. There is still light out here. Not everything has been taken. galaxy still holds fire, not just of war, but of warmth. If we carry it carefully, we may not burn, we may rebuild. Back on Earth, the message played across the stars. People stopped to listen. In a city, once burned by memory, a boy lit a candle not for the dead, but for the future. In a high-orbit station, fleet engineer reloaded an old Earth anthem into the CUM system. In a war-born hospital, soldier opened his eyes and remembered his name. And, in the dark, the stars began to sing again, not with words, but with hope. Humanity had not lost itself. It had simply carried the fire too long. Now, it would learn to share it and guard it forever.